We're going to talk the future of Mike McCarthy in depth on today's show. But first, I want to hear from you guys, the fans. Do you want Mike McCarthy back as the Cowboys head coach? Y for yes, N for no. Go vote in the comments section of today's show. The future of Mike McCarthy. One of the top Cowboys stories out there as we sit. 3 games to go in the regular season. And no commitments either way from the Cowboys organization with what they'll do with their current head coach, who is out of a contract after this year ends. And I think that does matter, by the way, because I do think if Mike was under contract, we'd be having a different conversation, because that means he would probably be more likely to come back. The Cowboys have won 3 of the last 4 games, and I will give McCarthy credit. His guys have fought hard. They have not quit on him. We have seen players quit. We have seen it turn ugly in a locker room. We saw it with Matt Eberflus in Chicago. That has not been the case in Dallas. Here's what Dianna Russini of The Athletic recently wrote on Mike McCarthy. Some key players, including Micah Parsons and Dak Prescott, have been vocal in their backing of Mike McCarthy. Both have emphasized the importance of stability and expressed their belief that he's the right person for the job. It's reminiscent of last year's Las Vegas Raiders, where players rallied around interim head coach Antonio Pierce, making the case for him to stay. Dianna also wrote that one NFL executive, not with the Cowboys, believes, quote, it will be important for McCarthy to finish strong, for the Joneses to stand pat. I do agree with part of that explanation from Russini in The Athletic. In this case, the unnamed executive. I think a strong finish has to happen for Mike McCarthy to come back. He knocked out the first leg. They went 3-4. He's got 3-1. He's got 3 games left. If he wins all 3, he might be back. If he doesn't win any, tough to see him coming back. What if he goes 2-1? What if he goes 1-2? It's tough for me to see the Cowboys going, yes, we'll bring back Mike McCarthy if they go loss, or 1-2 even down the stretch here. I do also have what I think are kind of important parts and kind of proves my overall point with the Antonio Pierce angle. I don't think that should be overlooked at all. I think it's actually very accurate and also is my issue with this whole thing. Before we get to that, though, what is the % chance the Cowboys keep Mike McCarthy as head coach? Let me know that pinned comment of today's show. % chance 0 to 100. McCarthy's back as the Cowboys head coach in 2025. On that Antonio Pierce comparison, I think it's spot on. I think it's a very valid one even. The players have bought in to Mike McCarthy just like the Raiders did last year with Antonio Pierce. How's that working out this year, Vegas? They have been a terrible football team. They've got some frustration that's bubbled over. They got all kinds of personnel issues. Pierce has been a not good head coach with in-game decision-making. And boy, doesn't that sound familiar? Player buy-in is a requirement for an NFL head coach. It is a baseline essential that you have to have, or you definitely don't get to keep your job. It cannot be a defining attribute of, you know what? Bad play caller, bad in-game decision maker, but hey, the players like him. Okay? You need more than that to be a great head coach. You need more than just my players believe in me. Because Jason Garrett had that too. Jason Garrett had buy-in. Didn't matter. Wasn't good enough. And by the way, these last 5 years, in Garrett's last 5 years, same playoff wins, same number of playoff games, or one more game for McCarthy. Looking kind of similar all of a sudden, isn't it? This whole thing reminds me of the end of the Garrett era. You got a lame duck head coach. You publicly back him, but he's out of a contract. And you say at the end of the year, we're just going to let you leave and say bye. See ya. And maybe even do interviews while he's still in the building, which happened with Jason Garrett too. I do think Mike McCarthy can save his job. I think there is a path that exists that the Cowboys play so well down the stretch, Dallas brings him back. I think there are complications to doing that anyway, and it's a really tough task with where the Cowboys sit at this point in the season, which I don't think should be overlooked, and why you got to be a chill guy and let things play out. More on that to come, but first, today's show is made possible by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash. You heard me right, 1,000 times. Holidays are bigger and brighter with Prize Picks. Join now. They're giving away 2 free picks in December and $30+ million in rewards during Picksmas. Here's one of my college football playoff Prize Picks slates. Will Howard, Carnell Tate, Bryant Wesco. More on the passing, receiving, respectively. I'm excited for these games. It always make the game a bit more fun. Prize Picks. Download the app today. Use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. It's prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after that first $5 lineup. Cowboys schedule is this. You're home against Tampa, Sunday Night Football. On the road against Philly. You'll be touchdown dogs in that one. Week 18, home against the Commanders. Commanders might be in the playoff spot, might not be. TBD what that line's going to look like there. Tampa's only a 3.5-point favorite right now, which is lower than what it was probably going to be. Cowboys had lost to Carolina, let's put it that way. But they are underdogs. The schedule gets a little bit tougher now. They had some easy games. Bengals are bad. Panthers are bad. Upset the Commanders to balance out the Bengals' loss. Giants are really bad. They won some games that they probably shouldn't have and lost a game they probably should have won. Since the Dak injury against winning teams, the Cowboys are 1-2 and 2-1 against losing teams. Now you're going to get 3 more winning teams down the stretch here. So what happens if you win out? I think McCarthy stays. At that point, I think he's proven that, hey, you know what? He did a great job. We're going to bring him back. They'll blame the injuries in the end. If he loses all 3 of those games, he's not going to come back. There's no way at that point. If he goes 2-1 or even 1-2, a little bit more murky. 2-1's a maybe, depending on, is that loss against Philly or Tampa maybe, and you're playing a Commanders team that's playing for anything or not. If you go 1-2, and which one is it? I don't know. I suspect this Bucs game is pretty massive for Mike McCarthy's chances to return. Cowboys pull that upset, and you get that pendulum to maybe it is more likely McCarthy ends up coming back as the Dallas Cowboys head coach. Maybe at that point it's even 51% as opposed to the, I think it is sub 50 as we sit right now, but that includes the Cowboys. Me thinking they're not going to win that game against Tampa or Philly, and who knows about the Commanders. Now, if the Cowboys make a coaching move, we will have you covered. The news, the candidates, etc. Hit that sub button so you don't miss out. YouTube.com/CowboysTV. I want to make this clear. I do think McCarthy was set up in a bad spot by the ownership group. The Jones boys have done a terrible job. This is not to excuse anything that they've done. They get the blame first, but I can't fire the owner. So we're talking about the head coach today instead. Mike has done good things. 12-5, 3 straight years, 3 straight playoff berths. That's hard for a lot of teams to do. It's very hard. And I've seen some argue, well, I like what Mike does for the most part. I just don't want him as my play caller. Do we think that's going to work? What good offensive coordinator are you going to get to come in and say, hey, we brought back the head coach, but we all kind of know he's still in the hot seat at least a little bit. That conversation is not going to go away. Come be the play caller where if you get credit, cool, thanks. If you don't, you're getting scapegoated. And by the way, does Mike McCarthy want that? Does he want to give up play calling duties again? I kind of don't think he wants to. Remember, he's a free agent too. He can leave if he wants to go down that path. The Cowboys decided after last season, hey, we went 12-5. We have playoff losses. We haven't been able to beat the best of the best on a consistent basis. We're not going to give Mike McCarthy an extension. So now the theory is, okay, that was true, but we beat some bad teams down the stretch in a lost season, so we're going to keep you. I have a very tough time just balancing those two things out and making logic point A and logic point B connect. I also reject the idea that I've also seen floated out there That, oh, well, Belichick's gone. There's no better options. Who are you going to find that's better? If you do a proper coaching search, you can find them. But you have to do a real coaching search for once in your organization history since you hired Wade Phillips all those years ago. Look at all the top NFL coaches, the mostly consensus. You can maybe work in Sean McDermott, but that still applies here. This head coaching list, when they got hired by their current team, had one Super Bowl title. That was it. Andy Reid didn't. McVay didn't. Harbaugh's didn't. Shanahan didn't. Campbell didn't. Tomlin didn't. LaFleur didn't. O'Connell didn't. Hell, most of these guys were first-time NFL head coaches. You have to be willing to play the mystery box game a little bit. You're going to have a tough time finding a head coach with a better resume on paper than Mike McCarthy because he's got a Super Bowl. But that's a resume. I care about getting the best head coach for 2025, not what you did a decade and a half ago. So rank Mike McCarthy. I guess it is just a decade, but rank Mike McCarthy among NFL head coaches. Let me know in the comments section of today's show. Couple other thoughts that I didn't find easy spots to put in, so I want to mention them now. Beyond Jones boys get blamed too. Mike can leave for a new job if he wants to. And there is a non-zero chance you have a scenario where someone asked to interview Mike McCarthy as the Cowboys have still not yet made a decision yet about what they're going to do with McCarthy. It's a real possibility that happens this year, which is kind of crazy to think about. Doesn't happen in the NFL really ever. And I think the injuries are just an excuse in the end. They suck. They've hurt you. I get that. Lions are winning games with injuries. They've been decimated. Now, it might cost them a Super Bowl chance, but still, been injuries. One name to monitor here, I do think, is Mike Vrabel, by the way, who I think if you had polled people a year ago, I think more people around the NFL would have said Vrabel was a better coach than Mike McCarthy is. Brings its own concerns. Got to get the OC hire right. But if I'm already looking for a new OC because I want to keep McCarthy, then I might as well look for a new head coach as well.